You're listening to Conversion Cast, presented by Leadferno. I'm your host, Aaron Weike. Conversion Cast focuses on digital marketing and conversion, exploring the art and science to turn a lurker on your website to a lead, a browser to a buyer. Today, we talk about link building and local SEO. We'll discuss its value, its impact, and ideas to build the right links. My guest is Amanda Jordan, Director of Digital Strategy at the Rickety Roo agency. Amanda has over a decade of experience in local SEO and is an industry thought leader as a frequent presenter at MozCon, LocalU, Women in Tech SEO, and more. And to quote Run DMC, local link building? It's tricky. But I know Amanda will both demystify and give us some great tips on local link building. Amanda Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today on Conversion Cast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. So excited to talk to you today.
Hey, and you brought a great topic to the table in link building, one that's always difficult, has its share of nooks and crannies and challenges for those doing it. And I thought I'd start off, since in a timing relevance, the industry has gotten a little bit of buzz from one of those statements that gets put out there. Google's Gary Aish, who said recently at a conference that links are, quote, less important, right? And there's always those things. People take these quotes and mentions and run with them one way or another. But what's your reaction to that statement and some of the talk online that you've seen around him making that statement?
The first thing I wrote on LinkedIn was "I told you so," because I talked about it at MozCon last year and about how I saw data from looking at the top HVAC home services companies across the United States. And I saw data showing that was the case too. Whoever the people who ranked consistently on top weren't going out getting a ton of backlinks. It was more about quality over quantity. And I think there's been a lot of SEO saying that, but I think it's still scary to people when they hear Google's also confirm that that's the case. But the data shows that that's the case as well.
Yeah. And I think the way he kind of framed it up too was that they just need less links to understand some of that authority, right?
Right. Yeah, because if you go and this especially applies to local, if you go and get a bunch of random citations from a bunch of random sites that no one uses, you have a lot of links, but does that link give any valuable information to Google? No.
Yes. Yeah. Is it really a signal besides being just a link, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, we look at, these tried and true reports over times, or the ranking factor studies that are done, White Spark and some others. We still see links playing a big part of success for SERP visibility, though, right? Do you see that coming down a few notches from being in the top 3 of that, or do you think people just need to think about it differently?
I think people need to think about it differently, because I think we're moving into a space where it's not necessarily about links. It's about your online relevance to what people are asking for. And if you can prove that across lots of different sites and have citations that your information is the most valuable on that topic for that city, or even more broadly, nationally, internationally, worldwide, then you're making that case. And links are just a part of making that case. Brand mentions are another part of making that case. The visibility of the team or the people that work in your team and being associated with your business is also making that case. All these things that are part of your marketing ecosystem are all part of this. And links are just a small part of that. But I think that's something that we can easily see and quantify. So that's why we stick with it. But it's just part of that formula. It's not the whole formula is that you have backlinks.
Yeah, totally get it. You already mentioned this, and I think this is worth diving into and picking apart a little bit further, is you stressing quality over quantity, right? So can you help us understand how you view this? What does quality look like in local SEO link building?
Yeah, so I think we all have an idea of what we mean when we say a quality link. We mean that it's a topically relevant site and that the site like is like a good website. It's not something that someone put up 2 days ago about nothing and just happens to have a bunch of blog posts about plumbing or something like that. So yeah. So like we all have the same definition pretty much of a quality site. And I think for local SEO, you can go a little bit further with the topic. So your topic isn't just plumbing. Your topic is also your location, your city. Because it is one of the part of your keyword, is part of the modification that will lead people to you specifically. So taking advantage of the fact that being local is part of your business identity, so part of your topic as well, can help you find other ways to build in links and other ways to build in like local authority to help grow your site as well. It's not just about having a ton of links, that prove that you are a great resource, a great member of your community, and you're relevant is significantly better. And it's harder to get a ton of those links. So you don't have as many of those, which is why Google doesn't need as many links, because they just need some valuable ones. You can rank on the first page with a page with 0 links on it. But because I found that in this case study and I thought it was wild. But it definitely helps being legitimate. In other words, being legitimate in the way you show up locally will help you with your SEO as well.
What do you think it is, Amanda, that makes link building so challenging for local, especially, right? Link building as an overall is challenging for any website, but I think some of this might be obvious, but maybe there's parts that aren't. What is it so difficult for businesses themselves or the agencies they work with to build the right quantity links in local?
Yeah, I think part of the issue with local are the directories. I think there's been a mindset of quantity over quality, so they just go after having as many citations as they can because they often include a link to your website. So that's been and the value of that has been inflated significantly. And then they try to make up for the topical side of it by then having a lot of PBNs or low quality sites about a specific topic, or sometimes about a bunch of random topics, point back to their website, and they think okay, I'm done. And sometimes that still works. I'm not going to say that it's will never work. You're immediately going to get caught by Google. No, that's not the case. Sometimes it works. It's just that you're not going to win in the long run if that's your strategy. The person who's going out in their community and taking the time to build true connections and true valuable backlinks are going to outlast you at the very least. And if you're I'll switch up when I see that Google is prioritizing that instead, they'll be pretty far ahead of you by then. If you're waiting, if they're doing that now and you're not, I think that's where things are going. And that's the issue with building backlinks for local is it is hard to get a local business to understand why you want to link from their website, to get someone who understands how to update the website at all. Building those truly local links can be it can be a chore for sure. And it's definitely something that is difficult to scale. So I think looking for unique opportunities, thinking outside of the box is definitely a way to go. For example, we have a client who is and I actually gave this advice to a couple of businesses that I met at MozCon last year. They are emergency care systems in Texas where it's kind of deregulated. So there's not necessarily it's not just hospitals that have emergency rooms. They're freestanding emergency rooms too. So you can go to an emergency room that is not owned by a hospital system. So those emergency rooms are competing against each other. So you'll have lots of different companies essentially that have their own emergency rooms, and they're all using different backlink strategies. And it's really interesting to see how it's not consistent across the board. And I think that's one of the places where we can find opportunities to scale, is looking at some of the things their competitors are doing it and then scaling it. You have one backlink from a local church. Interesting. There's churches all over Texas. That's a ton of opportunities right there, especially if you're already and this even goes back to one of the most well-known, I think, backlink strategies in local is who are your vendors, who are your partners, get links from them. They're already doing this work in the community, but taking it a step further and saying, okay, they can do that for this one location, but how can we scale it so they can do it for all of the locations? And that becomes something that is significantly harder to repeat. It becomes something that your competitors can't just go out and buy in 2 days. And that is the type of strategies that we're looking to build for our clients, is to like go beyond like what anyone else can easily go out and do. Let's build something that is powerful and hard to repeat.
Yeah, no, that definitely resonates with me. And just kind of as you put it, if you're able to do that and achieve that, that puts so much space between that business and its competitors, because it was hard work. It did take strategy. You just didn't fall into it, luck in it, fill out a form, whatever else to achieve that link or make that strategy work. So it is such a difference maker. And yeah, you're absolutely right, where in some industries like ours of digital marketing and things like that, it can be pretty easy to obtain, pretty easy, as I give hand quotes, to obtain links when you do things like valuable research or have an opinion or a stance or create good visuals, things like that. In the small business world, that can be very difficult because then there's also not other small business websites and in your location that are blogging, putting out good content, looking to cite or quote others, things like that. So a lot of the things that work at the grander scale, once you get down to local businesses, location specific stuff and things like that, it can be extremely more difficult. But just as you point out, and I think that's the right attitude that especially agencies should be taking, is how do we do something that's different and more impactful and gives us more of a difference maker than, yeah, we checked the box, we built a handful of links. But if anyone can build those handful of links, that's not a differentiator. That's just keeping you on par with the others.
Right. And definitely one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot recently is like, I want to get links where I think they may also be a good place for referral traffic. Because if they're a good place for referral traffic, then you know that they are relevant in some way. Any other way, it doesn't make sense for them to be a referral. So I'm thinking about it from different perspectives, because another part of being a local is there, I think, is a sense of accountability for leads and return on investment that more editorial parts of SEO don't experience, or they experience in a very different way. Because we just don't want eyes on the page. We want eyes from a specific group of people who want to take a specific action in a certain amount of time on the page. And from a very limited population too, because we're talking about like not a business that is serving, that can be seen anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world. They're focusing on a specific area. And part of that is really thinking about what do those customers need? What are they looking for? And trying to serve that specific audience. And part of that is like thinking about where are they going to be, like being obsessed with your customer, understanding where they're going to be and how you can be there, and be visible everywhere they're going to be looking online and where they already have connections and relationships online as well. And that makes it easier for us to tie it back into the ROI too. It's like, hey, we got a backlink, but we're also getting referral traffic, and this person who came as a referral turned into a lead. So like it was two birds, one stone. Like we got multiple benefits out of this, and we can show you how we got multiple benefits out of it. And it's not just for SEO; it's a referral option as well.
Yeah, and I think that is also a great way to, when you're an agency, or even if you're an in-house marketer with a company, when you're helping them understand how beneficial links can be and how they can contribute, when you're able to equate it to, okay, like one example, I'm working with a moving company right now. And one of the first things I talk to them, because they literally have no backlink profile at all. And so I'm like, who is most likely in the real world to refer you guys, right? Real estate agents, others involved in the home buying and selling process.
Yep.
They do like furniture and appliance moves. So there's businesses that are selling, that stuff where they'll do the delivery for them. So it's just getting them to think in real world, that same thing, like who would pass you a referral and say, hey, I came to you because ABC business or this realtor is who referred me. Now you just need to go to them and be like, hey, do you have a place on your website? Or I looked at your website and here's where it makes sense to be a preferred recommendation or someone who can help with these things because you have a paragraph addressing it. So I think that's a really good point and a really simple way to get people to think about it, instead of only talking to them about the SEO benefits, come to them with, hey, in real life, who is referring you? And now we look at, is that person have a domain doing what, like if they're like, oh, it's always friends and neighbors. Well, that one's a little tougher unless someone is blogging on their personal experience of moving or whatever else. But when you have professionals in that same line of work that they end up being seen as being helpful by giving those referrals, that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Let me jump in for a brief moment here. If you're doing the hard work and you're building links to your website and not only helping your SEO, but driving referral traffic to your site, what's the next thing you want to have happen? You want them to become a lead. And to do that, you need to put an easy to access call to action that's in front of them. And that's what LeadFerno's here for. We're here to improve your conversion by putting a more visible CTA that offers the types of channels like text messaging and requesting a call that users want to be able to use to work with your business in an easy and efficient way. Find out how you can convert more of your web traffic to leads by going to leadferno.com and trying out our 14-day free trial. And if you're an agency, good news. We have a partner program. Again, leadferno.com. What would you say, since we're talking about this, what are some other things that you'd like to share on like link building tactics and tips? I find it really interesting when I've talked to others in the past within the local industry. There's a lot that say, the overall strategy to some extent really hasn't changed much over the years. We've had the rushes of things like, 90% of law firms have a scholarship that they offer to get links from local schools and things like that about their scholarship offer. But it seems like from the thematic strategy of link building, not too much has changed there. But you already kind of gave some insight into pursuing the right kind of links and the right kind of quality. What are some other things that might be tips or tactics that you could share with the listener?
Sure. So, and part of that case study I did when I looked at, to be more specific, what I did was I looked at, the top 50 cities in the United States, and the top ranking plumbing, heating and air, electrical companies. Only looked at paid websites that were on the first page. And then I divided them up by who was at the top of the first page more consistently, and who was at the bottom of the first page more consistently. And those who were at the top of the first page more consistently had a better, a more balanced link profile. There wasn't like a ton of one type of links and some of others. They were balanced across the board, even with garbage, like low quality links. They had some, they just weren't depending on them. It wasn't the foundation of their strategy. The ones that were still on the first page, but were on the bottom of the first page more often, had a ton of citations. That was like by far what they had the most, like almost 60% of their citations were of their backlinks were citations. Okay. And they did have local too. About 20% of their backlinks were local, but for the businesses that consistently did well, almost 40% of their backlinks were local backlinks. So there's definitely like but they were more balanced. They still like topical citations. They still had all those. They were just more balanced out, more even across the board. So I think that's part of it is just like, yes, I'm saying you need local citations, and you probably should have more local than any other type of citation if you're a truly local business. That gets hard to do when you have multiple locations. But I'm getting to the point where I think, maybe citations are shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. I think there is probably a better idea to focus on citations where it's a site where your customers are more likely to find you, and legitimately interact with you or find your address and information. Sites where you're more likely to have reviews from customers and things like that. And like Barnacle SEO sites, so sites where you're likely to be mentioned, or your competitors are likely to be mentioned and show up on the first page of search results because they're doing like a top 10 best in X city or a list like that. So I think those are just citations that are mostly worth getting. And then of course, whatever your competitors have, at least have what they have as well. Of the good ones, don't take the garbage, ignore the garbage citations. Yeah. But yeah, I think they're like surprisingly, and I know like a lot of local SEOs are like, yeah, citations aren't worth as much as they were before, but that still seems to be the biggest tactic for getting links. I think really the best thing you can do, be aware of what your competitors are doing. And learn from your competitors, and not just say, hey, you have all of these high domain authority links, so we want the same ones. Categorize their links in different ways to understand them. The categories I recently used are like local, topical, citation, tools, coupons, like irrelevant / garbage. So just to really have a good look at what's going on and understand it, because we've already gotten to the point of doing that with keywords, but we're not doing it with backlinks, which makes me think, maybe intent of the page is a good one for backlinks. Yeah, that might be another good category. Yeah, we do that for keywords, but like not a lot of people are doing it for backlinks, and there may be some value in doing that for backlinks to get another view of maybe how Google is looking at this information, because we know that there's lots of different ways to slice and dice anything related to how your site ranks. And we've been looking at it from one dimension for a really long time. It's time to start looking at it from other dimensions, other viewpoints, to see if there's something that we're missing as far as what makes something successful and what doesn't.
I love that. A growth mindset applied to link building, something that definitely has a stale feel to it over the last 5 to 10 years. I'm curious, when you did that study, Amanda, and maybe you didn't look at it through this lens at all, but like it just came to my mind. When you look at these, could you clearly tell who had put time and resources and engaged expertise in agencies in their citations and link building profiles versus those that didn't? Did any of that like stand out to you? Like, these guys have done that, these ones definitely haven't? Or, was there anything that just kind of provided those signals? I guess I'm interested, like, can businesses succeed here without getting some technical SEO help to some extent?
Yeah, I think the majority of them did have some support from an SEO agency or like a full-time SEO, either now or some point in the past. Some of them are definitely like 100% obvious that there's a team behind it. Yeah. And those were the ones that were consistently top performers. I think part of it will be, I think it's hard to do it in a natural way when your competitors are using or have a team to support them in SEO. Part of it for me is always competition level. So if you're in a highly competitive area and industry, more than likely your competitors are already using the services of a digital marketing agency or have someone on their team that is like supporting those efforts. It's very hard for, especially in home services now, to like be like continue to actually get leads that aren't branded. If you're not actively engaging in SEO. So I think the majority of them did have some support. I do think it's possible. I do see sometimes Google favors like one location, very local business over a multi-location business and things like that. I do think that's a lot of one luck that is happening for them. I don't see like there being like a secret formula that they're doing, because sometimes it's like, I just think Google hasn't caught how like outdated the site is yet, or how how irrelevant it is compared to these other sites that have put a lot of effort into their SEO. I do think it's getting to the point where it's going to be, unfortunately, hard to compete in many industries without having some support from an agency or in-house SEO. I do think there's some industries that, as long as it's not super competitive, you can probably rank like first page, number one, and be in the local pack without doing much effort at all, because there's not a ton of competition there.
Yep. But yeah, just as you pointed out, those places where there's not as much competition are getting to be more few and far between. And I think for most agencies, that's a great selling angle to take to it, is like, this is a little bit of an arms race, and your competitors are likely arming themselves with smart people to help them with link building and digital PR and create those kind of opportunities. And if you don't, they will continue to widen that gap. So you need us on your side helping do those things.
Right.
Lastly, I just wanted to touch a little bit. You had mentioned the research you did with the HVAC company and looking at some of those top rankers. But also one of your presentations, you kind of outlined doing some insightful research with one of your clients as kind of like a case study with the cleaning business. And can you share a little bit of what you found across that case study?
Yeah. I actually want to make one point on the last thing you said about the last topic.
Yeah.
I actually had talked to a client about this. They had a competitor that all of a sudden shot up for one of their top keywords, and they asked me to look into it. And I came back and I said, my conclusion is that they finally hired an SEO. And that was the difference between where they rank before and now. It's just that they're finally optimizing for this keyword that has the highest search volume in your industry, and they were not doing it before. So it is really, they can really be that big of a difference. And it's hard to see because it's not the keyword that I would have guessed until I start to help them. And then I noticed, oh yeah, we should be focusing on this. And then when they got an SEO, they had came to the same conclusion. So it's interesting how it's easy for it to be missed sometimes because the way that customers think is different from the way the business owner thinks, and they're not aware of that unless they have a marketer on their side that understands and is looking into the way that their customers think. So to go into the case study that you're talking about, so we had a house cleaning franchise. They're nationwide, locations all over the country. Their competitors are both local, small, medium-sized businesses, but also other franchises as well. And we did a case study where we were working on specific locations that had poor performance and the rest of the site. We didn't touch do any changes to the rest of the site. We just focused on the link building for these locations. And the ones where we focus on link building, looking at it from hey, top performers usually have a more balanced link profile. Our competitors have more topical and local links than we do. These are type that we're going to go after. And we went after the same ones that we saw our competitors had. So we looked at a bunch of competitors and we took what's best from each of their strategies, not completely copying anyone's backlink profile, but putting them together to make a stronger profile. And for the individual locations we did this for, they had a 38% increase in clicks year over year. The locations that weren't in a case study still grew, but only by 14%. So it did make a difference for that client. And these were locations where they were failing before. So it's not just a 38% increase. It's going from a negative to a significant positive in just 6 months. So it was definitely super impactful. It was really fun to do too and watch that happen.
Yeah. Well, with your research with that case study, I can definitely see how your perspective has started to be shaped on local and link building and the opportunities that are there by just a little more focus and trying to do things a little bit more differently, and that quality focus really coming through on that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for joining me today. If people want to stay in tune, you definitely put out a lot of great content and information. Where are some of the best places to connect with you online?
Sure. You can go to the ricketyroo.com blog. We have a lot of information there, but you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Amanda Jordan. And if you're going to any conferences this year, I'll be at MozCon and Brighton SEO in San Diego.
Awesome. Two great spots, two great conferences. I will put the links in the show notes for connecting with Amanda. Highly recommend her as a follow. And Amanda, please pass along my hello and thanks to Blake and Tess and the rest of the Rickety Roo crew. Always enjoy the work you guys do and the great people you have on your team.
Will do.
All right.